From blockading roads, disrupting events and using extreme language to scare young people, climate change warriors across the globe are on a mission to force their message down the throats of everyone by any means necessary. And they won't be stopped. Sky News All-Stars Rita Panahi, Piers Morgan and Chris Kenny expose the worrying epidemic of increasingly mentally unstable climate activists. Climate activists have always been extreme. You usually see them hanging from buildings or throwing paint on priceless artworks. But in recent times, extreme has turned to unstable, and many are very worried, according to Sky News All-Star Rita Panahi.
Now to the UK, where the extremists from the Just Stop Oil group continue to break the law, cause all sorts of disruption and havoc, but they are heroes. Just ask them.
How worse does it have to get? How many kids have to die? How many more young people have to do this stuff? I don't know what else to say, Anna. Why aren't you on the streets with us? That's all I can say. How do you explain your inaction? How do you explain it? Everyone here, all the presenters that we talk to, how do you explain your inaction? How much longer are you going to keep this journalistic objectivity up? Until the water's lapping at your ankles? Until your own kids haven't got food?
And in New York, climate activists staged their usual protests, but this one went further, when a woman just trying to get into her work building was physically assaulted and verbally bullied, reveals Rita Panahi.
And there were also climate-crazy protesters causing havoc in New York, where they obstructed and manhandled people trying to go into work. How dare they? Watch them bully this woman trying to access her building.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're talking Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not worth it. It's not worth it to be violent. No violence. No violence. How are you doing? Don't try to push your way through, ma'am. Don't try to push your way.
Climate activists have pushed the boundaries of the demands further than ever before, now pushing for all dogs to be vegan in a bid to save the planet, which Sky News All-Star Chris Kenny says goes way too far.
I've got to get your thoughts also on the climate activists. They're now pushing for us to make all of our dogs vegan. If we can just feed all of our dogs vegetable matter instead of meat, we could save the planet.
Well, I know you're no dog lover, Chris, but I think this just takes things too far. You know, I have to speak in a soft voice in case Calvin hears me. You know, I just think of giving him a bean instead of a bone, and my heart breaks for the dog. I mean, they don't get that much out of life. It's all about meat and walks, you know, and they want to take even the meat out of the diet. It's just tragic, pushing away too far.
And the climate activists have recruited some big names to their cause, with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on the top of the Climate Crusaders list. But Sky News All-Star Sophie Ellsworth says their hypocritical behaviour loses them credibility.
The Sussexes, they seem to be the flip side of that coin, again labelled climate hypocrites, having flown 7 times in 14 days. They don't seem to be too introspective, but, you know, they should be able to hire advisors to point out the obvious for them.
Well, this is where I think they let themselves down, Caroline. It's such an obvious thing that they're doing that is so hypocritical. How can they jet set around the world, carry on like these mega stars, and then dictate to the little people that we're in a climate emergency and we need to save the planet? They actually said they were only ever going to have 2 children to minimise the damage to the planet. And here they are stepping on and off planes like it's going out of fashion. And I think that just loses them any credibility that they have left, Caroline. If they're going to tell the general public, it's a case of, you know, they need to set an example here. But when they're saying something and doing the complete opposite, who on earth is going to listen to them? And I would argue few people will. And I think that is why they are so unpopular.
The Pope has also hopped on the climate hysteria bandwagon, coming under fire from Sky News host Liz Storer for encouraging the climate crazies.
Catholics, we need to talk about your Pope. This guy talks a lot about climate change, and he's used his latest speech at the latest synod to talk about it more, as well as his latest encyclical. He writes, "I have realised that our responses have not been adequate while the world in which we live is collapsing and may be nearing the breaking point. As a humble Protestant with a bachelor's degree in biblical studies, I'd love to see the Pope point to any biblical basis for where he stands on this issue, but don't read the encyclical waiting for that, because I certainly didn't find it."
Piers Morgan highlighted the mental instability of a climate activist who had a meltdown at the sight of him eating yogurt.
Well, when you try and make out this yogurt is the most evil thing that anyone can eat in the world, I think you're bonkers, Juliet.
We're in the sixth mass extinction. We're living it now. You're behaving like a news anchor on Don't Look Up.
I'm in the what?
You're behaving like a news anchor on the film Don't Look Up. We're in the sixth mass extinction. You're deflecting all the time from the
world
real
is not
issues.
going to end
you
because
are trying to deflect
because I eat a Muller yogurt. Look,
animals are factory farmed. You're trying to deflect from the fact that veganism protects the environment.
Juliet, we're still here.
We are, but how
Nobody's
much longer
extinct.
have we got? You've got kids. You must care about the climate crisis.
I let my kids eat meat. I let them eat yogurt.
Piers Morgan also drove a climate activist to hysteria when he berated Just Stop Oil for their reckless protests.
You just like wrecking things for the sake of wrecking. Nobody is coming along to your cause because of these stupid stunts.
Piers.
We all think you're a bunch of puerile, spoilt brats who are just going out of their way to cause other people inconvenience and ruin their fun. That is the reality.
Well,
you might well have serious... hang on, let me finish. You might well... Hang on. You might well have a serious point to make, or many serious points to make. I might well agree with some of those points. I probably do. But you know what? The more of these things you do are things that I enjoy and my friends enjoy and my family enjoys and other people with their friends and families enjoy, the more families that you stop in getting to work or getting their kids to school for important exams or getting to funerals or whatever it may be, the more you do that, the more we hate you. And the more we don't want to have anything to do with you or give you a platform to talk about the stuff that actually is more important, as you rightly say. Why don't you just stop the stupid stunts? Stop wrecking people's lives.
This won't stay in the news and it won't stay in the conversation. And perhaps what we're doing by interrupting the things that you need to do that are important to you, that you love, is we're making you think about everything that we're standing to lose.
No, you're not. You're making me think you're a bunch of morons.
Lord Debon said today...
You're not, Chloe.
Lord Debon said today...
Chloe, you're not making me think about your cause. Nobody at Lord's today was thinking, God, you know what? This is about climate change. We saw the orange powder, the whole crowd started booing. Unfortunately, England's wicketkeeper, Johnny Bairstow...
Are you going to let me talk?
Actually, no, I'm going to cut you off.
But not everyone is drinking the Kool-Aid. In the past, climate activists were merely a bunch of university students with placards. But they've since expanded into a scary cult who are brainwashing young minds, says Sky News All-Star Corey Bernardi.
And no one seemed to be able to explain how or why the climate has been much warmer or cooler previously. And yet apparently now it's a man-made catastrophe. Well, the reason for that is because most people haven't got a clue how the weather has been manipulated as a means of control. Allowing the world to think that disaster is imminent and man is somehow responsible allows bad actors to seize control of your life and implement an agenda that empowers them.
Sky News All-Star Andrew Bolt agrees, saying the climate zealots are causing mass hysteria.
Global warming panic. It's really getting too much. It's turning Australians into helpless ninnies, panic merchants just waiting for another firestorm or worse for Australia's biggest city to run short of water. Now, we have had 3 years of wonderful rain. I mean, so much for this global warming catastrophe, but that's now suddenly dried up. And so here we go again, the media full of horror stories about catastrophic fire conditions caused by you-know-what.
Ensure that you're prepared for what could be a horror summer period.
So horror, catastrophe.
And even UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is calling for calm when it comes to global warming.
Well, I'm pleased to point out that in the UK, the Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to calm down and wind back his country's climate and energy response. He's realised the reckless attempts to get to net zero by 2050 should not be allowed to wreck the economy and lower the living standards of Britons. Instead of appeasing the climate gods, he's going to try to appease common sense.
The proposal for government to interfere in how many passengers you can have in your car, I've scrapped it. The proposal that we should force you to have 7 different bins in your home, I've scrapped it. The proposal to make you change your diet and harm British farmers by taxing meat, or to create new taxes to discourage flying or going on holiday, I've scrapped those too. And nor will we ban new oil and gas in the North Sea, which would simply leave us reliant on expensive imported energy from foreign dictators like Putin.